Good morning, everyone. Our topic for today is Lesson 5, Find Common Denominators. You will find this lesson from your book on page 883 up to page 887. Here are the learning objectives. You're going to find the common denominators for fractions with unlike denominators and solve mathematical practices and problem solving related to fractions with speed and accuracy. How can you find common denominators? Let's analyze this problem. Tyrone partitioned a rectangle into thirds. Sally partitioned a rectangle on the same size into fourths. How could you partition a rectangle of the same size so that you see both thirds and fourths? So you can partition a rectangle to show thirds and fourths. So based on the given, we have the thirds and we have the fourths. The rectangle divided into 3 and the rectangle divided into 4. Now, this rectangle is partitioned into third and fourths. Okay, so this becomes 12. Why? This is 3, 1. This is the thirds, 2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3. Okay, and the fourths are 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we have 1, 2, 3 and 4. So the rectangle is partitioned into 12 equal parts, okay, showing the thirds and the fourths. As you can see, we have 12 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so each part is equivalent to 1/12. So the fraction 1/3 and 1/4 can be renamed with equivalent fraction. So this is equivalent to 1/3, this one, okay, 1/3. So 1/3 is equivalent to 4/12. Why? Because the denominator, the common denominator that we use is 12. So we're going to use 12, then we use 12. Now, how 3 becomes 12? That is multiplied by 4. So 1 multiplied by 4 is equivalent to 4. That's why the equivalent fraction of 1/3 is equivalent to 4/12. Next, how 4 becomes 12? That is multiplied by 3. So 1 multiplied by 3, that is equivalent to 3/12. Now, fractions that have the same denominator, such as 4/12 and 3/12, are said to have common denominators. So the common denominators now of 1/3 and 1/4 is 12 or 12. Now, another example. Find a common denominator of 7/12 and 5/6. So then rename each fraction with equivalent fraction. So the first way in order you to find the common denominator is to multiply both the denominator. So the denominators that we have here is 12 and 6. So 12 multiplied by 6, that is equivalent to 72. And use this as their common denominator. Okay, so 7/12 is equivalent to 12 multiplied by 6 is equivalent to 72. So 7 multiplied by 6 is 42. So the equivalent fraction of 7/12 is 42/72. Okay, 5/6, if I'm going to multiply it by 12, that is equivalent to 72. Okay, then 5 multiplied by 12 is 60. So the equivalent fraction of 5/6 is 60/72. So 42/72 and 60/72 is one way to name 7/12 and 5/6 with common denominator. Their common denominator is 72. As you can see, 72 and 72 here. How 6 becomes 72? By multiplying by 12. How 5 becomes, by multiplying by 12. So we need to multiply it by 12. 5 times 12, that's why we got 60. Then how 12 becomes 72? By multiplying by 6. So 7 multiplied by 6 is 42. That's why we got 42/72. There's another way to find, okay, the common denominator using multiples. Okay, so like for example, the given is 7 12 and we have 5 6. Just get the denominator, which is 6 and 12. Then skip counting. Get the multiples of 12. The multiples of 12 are 12, 24, 36, and so on. Then 6, okay, 12, 18, and so on. Now, do we have in common now? Yes, the common is 12, and that is what we call the least common. If you're going to continue this number, okay, finding the multiples of 12, okay, you can find a lot of multiples, or you can find a lot of common denominator, okay, but the least common denominator of 12 and 6 is 12. That's why we're going to use 12 as their common denominator. So this 7 12 and 5 6, I'm going to write it here. 7 12, their common denominator is 12. So to find the equivalent fraction of 12, how 12 becomes 7 12, how 12 becomes 12, that is multiplied by 1. So 7 times 1 is 7. So 7 12 is equivalent to 7 12. Now the other one is 5 6. 5 6, and the common denominator that I'm going to use is 12 because that is what we get. Okay. Now how 6 becomes 12? That is times 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. That's why the common denominator of 12, 7 12 and 5 6 is equivalent to 7 12 and 10 12 is the equivalent fraction using the common denominator, which is 12. Okay, now let's answer the following. In the example on the previous page, how many 12s are in 1/3 section of Tyron's rectangle and how many 12s are in each 1/4 section of Sally's rectangle? So there are 4 12s. What are you going to do is you just simply multiply 1/3. Okay, multiply by 12. So what is 1/3 multiplied by 12? So in multiplying fraction, you just simply multiply both numerator and denominator, then simplify. 1 times 12 is 12, then 3 times 1 is 3, then 12 divided by 3 is 4. That's why the first one is 4. Then the other one is 1/4. Then 1/4 multiplied by 12. So 12 over 1, this becomes 12 over 4, and 12 divided 4 is 3. That's why there are 3 12s in each 1/4 section. Okay, now let's focus on how to get the common denominator for each pair of fraction. Okay, so either you can use the first way or you can use the second way. It's up to you. So the first way, if I'm going to use the first way, okay, I'm just simply multiply both the denominator. 6 times 2 is 12. Okay, so that is 12, and that is another 12. Okay, so because you have two fractions. Now, how 6 becomes 12? That is multiplied by 2. Then it means we're going to multiply this by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. So 1/6 is equivalent to 2 12. The other one is 1/2. How 2 becomes 12? That is multiplied by 6. So 1 multiplied by 6 is equivalent to 6. So 2 12 and 6 12. 2 12 is the equivalent fraction 1/6. 1/2 is equivalent fraction of 6 12. And their common denominator is equivalent to 12. So since here it is asking only to find the common denominator, so the correct answer is 12. Sample answer is 12. Now, I said the sample answer is 12, okay? Because I used the first way. Now, this answer is the answer for the second way. Why? Because the second way is multiple. So I'll get the denominator 6 and 2. Then find the multiples of 2. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. Then 6, 12, 18, and so on. Do I have common now? Yes, 6 and 6 are common. That's why that is 1. So that's why 6 is also a common denominator of 1/6 and 1/2. 12 is also a common denominator of 1/6 and 1/2. But the least common is 6. Okay? If you want to get always the least common, always apply the second rule, which is the multiples. You can find the least there. Okay? If you will going to continue these multiples of the given number, you will find a lot of common denominators or common multiples to be used as the common denominator. Okay? Now, let's proceed to number 3. Number 3, 2/3 and 3/4. The first way, if I'm going to multiply, my answer is 12. So that is my common denominator. Okay? If I'm going to use the second way, I'm just copy the denominator, then I need to find the multiples of 3. 3, 6, 9, 12, and so on. 4, 8, 12, and so on. So I have now the common, which is 12, which is the same when I multiply both the denominator directly. So my common denominator is 12. If you're going to continue that one, we have a lot. Okay, so let's try 3 and 4. Okay, so let's stop with 12. Okay, after 12, let's start with 12. So after 12, we have 15, 18, 21, 24. After 12, we have 24. So 24 are common. It means 24 is also a common denominator of 2/3 and 3/4. And if you will continue that one, you will get a lot of common denominators. But I encourage you to always get the least common. So the least common is the first one that is in common. Okay, so that is equivalent to 12. Next, find the common denominator for each pair of fraction and write the equivalent fraction. So there are two answers: the common denominator and the equivalent fraction. Okay, for me, in order to make it easy, I'm going to use the second way always for me. So it's up to you if you're going to apply the first way or the second way. So 5 and 8, I'll just copy 5. Okay, and 8. Then skip counting. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Okay, then 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. So I have now in common, which is the least common, the first one that in common, which is 40. So I'm going to use 40 as my denominator, common denominators. Okay, so now let's find out the equivalent fraction. How to find the equivalent fraction? This 3/5 is for this 3/8 is for this fraction. Okay, how to find? Look at the denominator, you have 5. How 5 becomes 40? That is multiplied by 8. So you need to multiply also by 8 to the numerator. So 3 multiplied by 8 is 24. So 24/40 is the common or the equivalent fraction of 3/5. Now, 8. How 8 becomes 40? That is multiplied by 5. So I need to multiply this also by 5. Okay, so 3 multiplied by 5 is 15. So my common denominator or my equivalent fraction now is 15/40. Okay, so what is my common denominator? My common denominator is 40 and my equivalent fractions are 24/40 and 15/40. Okay, so next. Okay, 5, 8, and 4. Okay, so I told you I'm going to use the second rule. The second rule, or the second way rather, 4 and 8. So I'm going to get the common, okay, using the common multiples. So 8, 16, 24, and so on. Okay, then I have 4, 8, 12, and so on. So I have now in common, which is 8. So that is my common denominator. Then I will use that common denominator to get the equivalent fraction. Okay, so 5, 8. 5, 8 what is the equivalent fraction of 5 8? How 8 becomes 8? That is multiplied by 1. So I need to multiply by 1 here. So 5 times 1 is 5. Now, how 4 becomes 8? That is multiplied by 2. It means I need to multiply this also by 2. 3 by 2 is 6. So my equivalent fractions now are 5 8 and 6 8, and my common denominator is 8. So the answer is 8 as the common denominator, and my equivalent fractions are 5 8 and 6 8. Okay? Next, 1/3 and 4/5. So I have 3 and 5 as my denominator. So using the second way, find the common multiple. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and so on. I have 5, 10, 15. Okay? So I have now in common, which is 15. So that is now my common denominator. So I will use that 15 as my common denominator to get the equivalent fraction. Okay? Now, this 1/3 is for this 4/5 is for this. Now, 1/3, what is the equivalent of fraction of 1/3? So how 3 becomes 15, that is multiplied by 5. That's why it becomes 15. And 1 multiplied by 5 also, it should be 5. Now, how 5 becomes 15? That is multiplied by 3. So I need to multiply this also by 3. So the answer is 12. So my common denominator is 15, and my equivalent fractions are 5 15 and 12 15. So that is the answer for question number 6. Next, 3 12 and 9 8. So I have 12 and 8. Okay, so finding the common multiple of 12 and 8. So I have 12, 24, okay, 36, and so on. I have 8, 16, 24, and so on. So I need to stop because I have now in common, which is the least one. So 24. So I will use that 24 as my common denominator. So the common denominator now is 24. Now, how 12 becomes 24? That is multiplied by 2. So it means I need to multiply this also by 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. Now, how 8 becomes 24? That is multiplied by 3. So 9 multiplied by 3 is equivalent to 27. So the answer now are the common denominator is 24, and the equivalent fractions are 6 24 and 27 24. Okay? So that is the answer. Next, question number 8. For 7 and 1/2. Okay, so 7 and 2 are my denominators. So 7 and 2. If I'm going to get the common multiple, I have 7, 14, and so on. Then 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So my common now is 14. So my common denominator here is 14. That is my first answer, common denominator. Now, what are my equivalent fractions? So I will use 14 as my common denominator. Okay? Now, how 7 becomes 14? That is multiplied by 2. So it means I'm going to multiply it by 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. So the equivalent fraction of 7 is 8/14. Now, how 1/2 becomes, how 2 becomes 14? That is multiplied by 7. So I need to multiply this by 7. This becomes 7. So the equivalent fractions are 8/14, 7/14, and the common denominator is 14. Okay, so that is the correct answer. Now, let's proceed to question number 9. We have 4/5 and 3/4. So what is the common denominator and what are the equivalent fractions? So I'm going to use again the second way. I'm going to copy the denominator and find the multiples. So 5, I have 5, 10, 15, and 20, and so on. I have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and so on. So I have now in common, which is 20. So I will use that common multiple as the common denominator of these two fractions. Okay, so I will use 20. Now, how 5 becomes 20? That is multiplied by 4. So the number that you multiplied to the denominator must be the same from the numerator. So 4 times 4, that is equivalent to 16. Then how 4 becomes 20, that is multiplied by 5. So 3 multiplied by 5 is equivalent to 15. So the equivalent fractions of 4/5 and 3/4 are 1620 and 1520, and the common denominator is equivalent to 20. Okay? Next question, number 10. 8 and 720. So I have 8 and 20. So I skip counting by 8. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. Then 20, 40. So the common is 40. So I will use that as my common denominator, which is equivalent to 40. Then how 8 becomes 40? That is multiplied by 5. It means I'm going to multiply by 5 here. 2 times 5 is 10. Then how 20 becomes 40? That is times 2. So 7 multiplied by 2 is 14. So the equivalent fractions of 28 is 1040 and 720 is 1440. And the common denominator is equivalent to 40. Okay? Next question, number 11. 3 and 9. So 3, 6, 9, then 9. So the denominator now, the common denominator is 9. So how 9 becomes 9? That is multiplied by 1. So 1 multiplied by 1 is 1. Then how 3 becomes 9? Times 3. So 2 times 3, that is equivalent to 6. So that is the equivalent fractions of 1 9 is 1 9th. Then 2/3 is 2/3 is 6 over 9 or 6 9. Okay, and the common denominator is equivalent to 9. So that is how to get the common denominator and the equivalent fractions. Now let's proceed to the mathematical practices and problem solving. Clara says the only common denominator of 3/4 and 3/5 is 20. Do you agree? Of course, the answer is no. 20 is only the sample answer. Why? Because if you're going to use the second way, which is 4 and 5, finding the multiples, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, okay, 28, 32, okay, 36, then 40, and so on. So 5, 10, 15, 20, so that is the first common. Then 25, 30, 35, 40, so that is the second common. Okay, so we have a lot. When you continue these multiples of 4 and multiples of 5, you will get a lot of examples or a lot of common. And that is, like for example, we have 40, 60. There are also examples of common denominators of 3/4 and 3/5. Okay, that's why that statement is incorrect. Okay, we have a lot of denominators, but as I told you, I encourage you to get always the least common denominator, because when you're going to add, subtract, multiply, okay, so the least common denominator is the most important one. Next, number 13. The least common denominator is the least common multiple of the two denominators. So what is the least common denominator of 3/4 and 5/6? So I have 4 as the denominator of 3/4, and I have 6 as the denominator of 5/6. So 4 and 6, so I have 4, 8, then 12, and so on. I have 6, then 12, and so on. So the least common means the first one that have in common from these given two numbers. Okay, so the answer is equivalent to 12. So that is the least common denominator. The least common multiples is 12. Number 14. Grandma bought 8 cakes that are the same size. The first one was divided into three equal sections, and the second one was divided into two equal sections. Gemma wants to cut the cake so that there are 6 pieces in each cake. Draw on the pictures to show how Gemma should cut each cake. So the answer must be like this. So there are 6, right? It's cut into 2, and it is cut into 3, and still there are 6 pieces in each cake. Next, number 15. The table shows the price of 3 different sandwiches sold at the local deli. So what are the prices of the sandwiches rounded to the nearest dollar and to the nearest dime? To the nearest dollar, it means the nearest whole number. So 3 is followed by 8, so this becomes 4. And 4 followed by 0, it becomes 4. And 3 followed by 7, so it becomes 4. So the nearest dollar, the answer is 4. And to the nearest dime means to the nearest tenths. So 8 is followed by 9, so it becomes 3.9. 0 is followed by 9, so it becomes 4.1. And 7 is followed by 9, it becomes 3.8. So that is the answer. Okay? Or when you round to the nearest dollar, then when you round to the nearest dime, the ham is 3.90 or $3.90. Okay, $4.10, then $3.80 hundredths. Okay, so that is the correct answer. Next, number 16. Use all the common denominators of 1/3 and 2/4. So the possible answers are 12, 6, 36. Okay, so those are the common denominators. And 2/3 and 4/5. So 2/3 and 4/5, we have 15, 30, and 60. Okay, so for 1/3 and 2/4, 48 is also included. Okay, so that's it. That is how to get the common denominator and equivalent fractions. Thank you so much and have a nice day. Actually, we